are in the next game, spawning down in the bottom left side. Phenomenal game 1, fumbling game 2. It is going to be Liquid Ret. Always such a pleasure to watch him play, especially on a map like Cloud Kingdom, just because it is a Zerg playground as far as at least having options for counterattacks. Up in the top right side, it is going to be Squirtle. He probably feels amazing after such an easy victory in that last game. Now, one just kind of random stat I want to talk about for both these players.
Let's do it.
Is that the website SC2 Earnings can show you what the players have earned in their StarCraft careers, and Squirtle is at $44,000, and Ret very comparably at $42,000, which, I mean, it is not necessarily a judgment of absolute skill, but it's always interesting to see how much experience these players have playing in these big tournaments, because you can be the best player on ladder, but if you don't have the experience to play during a live best-of-5 series, then you can fall right in the first round.
And if you look at the difference between the earnings for Squirtle, it's really from two large competitions, IPL4 and GSL. So Ret, on the other hand, is lots and lots and lots of smaller tournaments, still performing quite well in some of the international major events. So Ret, I think, has a ton of experience against varieties of players, but I mean, you gotta admit, no matter how simple or straightforward Squirtle's build might be, he executes them so cleanly that his mechanics are honestly at least as good as Ret's, and I think that that's a real uncomfortable spot for Ret to be in. He's always used to having more units, being ahead in the game state, being ahead in pretty much any form of production, but here Squirtle is almost out-macroing Ret in some straightforward games.
Squirtle going for the pretty standard wall in here, not trying to do anything fancy like we saw in the last game, which I really like that wall in out of Squirtle in the last game. It's more of a defensive wall in, allows you to kind of be tucked away in that corner. The Robo wasn't able to be scouted nearly quickly enough, and the Probe does drop one pylon at the natural. Is he going to drop one here? Usually what you'll see is the Probe just trying to deny the expansion as long as he can. Somehow Ret manages down to get that hatchery. And you got to remember that if you do place another pylon, it's going to delay your Nexus by a little bit. So that's something that you have to kind of take into consideration. Does he drop the gateway first? Most likely. Down it goes. We'll drop a cannon right behind that. But 4 Zerglings are going to be on the way here. These tend to be just for map control, grabbing those watchtowers, poking at the expansion, making sure he's at least getting a cannon. But this is looking like standard TV and appliance right here, Day 9.
Really is. I mean, we see Squirtle did have the chance to build Probe since he had that pylon built at his opponent's natural expansion, frees up his food a little bit, but it does look like we're seeing Squirtle play pretty much a standard, passive, slower opening. The 2 geysers go down at around 18 supply. Ret also getting his 2 hatcheries up early. And I would love to see some sort of craziness out of Ret, like what we saw out of Vortex in his series against Baby Knight, but I just don't think that we will. I mean, I guess that is one potential downfall of playing the way that Ret does. Your opponent will be very comfortable at the start of games, almost always.
Yeah, and that's something, again, it comes into the tournament mentality. If you research your opponent, you know their general tendencies. Of course, you're not going to play blindly versus any sort of play style ever, because if they've been practicing specific builds, then they can absolutely crush you. But that's why the StarCraft metagame is so awesome and so entertaining as a sport. Now, it does look like the Probe going to be scouting here. Does spot the expansion, says, okay, I know for a fact there's already a 3rd base up and running, so that means, again, like Day 9 was saying, I'm going to be just fine here moving forward. The warp gate is done. And does he restart the research right now, or is he going for some sort of tech? He's definitely going for some sort of tech.
Looks like
he does have it, and there it is.
Yep, Twilight Council tech going down. This will generally signal that he wants to be going for some sort of Dark Templar play straight out the gate. We don't even see the Warp Prism, or excuse me, the Warp Gate getting started yet. If you do want to do this effectively as Squirtle, you kind of have to get your geysers 3 and 4 up pretty soon. Did that Overlord up on the high ground see the delay on the cybernetics core? It looks like no. That can actually be really telling if you're the Zerg player and you got to see that late start on the Warp Gate, but alas, totally stinks. And since you are going for Dark Templar in this circumstance, as Squirtle, you have to get that initial Stalker out to pick things off.
I do love the building placement here. Squirtle always so methodical about his building placement. Does have a Probe over here ready to build something, most likely the Dark Shrine. He did send that over there just a little bit early, and the Overlord, I believe, is going to get taken out, but the Stalker's shooting his guns as quickly as he can.
Vision.
Is he going to spot the Twilight Council? It's going to be so important for him. He's dangerously close to it.
Wow.
Does not get it there on the vision, and of course that means he doesn't see the dark shrine as well, or the gateway is being placed down. So right now he's playing relatively in the dark. However, I mean, he knows that the options are starting to get limited here a little bit. He hasn't seen a Phoenix come out, hasn't seen a Void Ray. His Overlords are still alive at the natural, and he also has spotted there is no gas in those expansions quite yet. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if Rhett has got a good feel, but he didn't directly see what the tech is.
These are some interesting manipulations that we're seeing out of Squirtle, where you only throw the geysers down at a time like this if you are pretty much going to do some sort of early gateway-based aggression. But we see Squirtle actually not really going to be doing any sort of huge gateway-based aggression. He's going to be going for the Dark Templar. There's not going to be a big Stalker Zealot force coming up. There will certainly be some, but with that play, what Squirtle does is he forces Rhett to delay his lair, because Rhett's thinking, oh man, I got to get Roach and Ling speed up really early to defend against this fast attack, and that means no Overseer, so the DT push is going to be quite strong.
And do we have the Evo Chambers? Not quite yet. He has started one, though. It's about halfway done. Where are those DTs at? They're warping in right now. Manages to afford 3, even though with the delayed gas there. So the timing of this is going to be quite brutal, especially if he splits them up and goes for all 3 bases. But he could actually maybe even focus down a hatchery here. So without any detection on the field, we do have, though, the lair got to be finishing up right when the DTs hit. So that means he'll just have to survive for the duration of the Overseer. And there's an Overlord just popping there right now. So he should be able to do just that. In come the DTs. Is he going to be able to do enough damage? He needs to go straight for the drone. He will be able to at least get 3 kills here because he can split those DTs up and retreats away, but taking massive damage.
That is some huge kills almost immediately. And we also see another Dark Templar trying to swing into the natural expansion. Where are Red's defenses? It looks like the Overseer goes the wrong way at the last second. A couple more of those drones will fall, and there down goes the expansion.
I love the control here so far. He doesn't go for the natural, he goes for the main, knowing that the units are going to be over at the third base trying to defend. This is the DT harass that all Protoss players dream of. He's going to be able to force those drones away right now. And the DTs, are they still in great numbers? No, he actually ended up losing those DTs and is not going to lose the Spire, but did spot the Spire. However, he did lose all 4 of those DTs here, Day 9.
Only 11 workers is killed. A pretty impressive answer there by Liquid Ret, but at the same time, Ret did lose that third base. I think this is kind of a difficult response situation for Ret. He has a Spire finishing up. He has the Infestation Pit coming out as well. So does he conserve all his gas and instantly go for the Infestors and Hive? Does he get the Mutalisk out for the harassment? He's just now seen no third base, so he might delay his Mutalisk by just a little bit, but I'll be honest, I think that maybe the best response is Vortex style, going for the mutas and then for the Baneling drops. I mean, you know Squirtle's going to be a little bit low on the general unit count.
Ooh, unfortunately for Red, he did have 3 drones hotkeyed into that group. It's still hotkeyed there, as they are stuck awkwardly in the center of the map, finally transferring those back down right now. But he needs every drone he can get, especially since he's long-distance mining right here, so those drones are only going to directly help his economy. It's not like he's oversaturated by any means quite yet. Does have more drones on the way. The Evo Chamber going back on down. Is he going to be able to get any upgrades? He does have the 1 armor on the way already, and the 4th base is going to be started here. Take a look over at Squirtle's base. We do have the +2 on the way. It's nearly completed right now, so that's going to be putting him in a good spot. And we mentioned before, Protoss really want to get a 3rd base on this map, and that's exactly what Squirtle's doing.
You know, but Squirtle's going for kind of a more old-school style, where you get up the Stalker Sentry so you can defend, and you get up the Mortals so you can defend. And the tool that lets you attack is the Colossus, and there's the Colossus tech going down for Squirtle. It's not bad, it's just passive, and it looks like Rhet's answer is, after that DT play, I'm just going to instantly go for this Infestor Broodlord composition. He should be throwing down a Hive probably at 13 minutes exactly to be able to just get up the force that he needs. And especially considering his opponent is going Colossus, Rhett should be just fine for any sort of early defense.
The expansion finishing up now for Squirtle. Once again, the creep spread abysmal by Rhett, but he has been able to hold off the DT rush. His tech is looking quite strong as he is now working on the melee attack. He still actually has those 3 drones hotkeyed in that group. That's an interesting mistake there by Rhett. Needs to make sure to get those back to work, especially now since he also has a 4th base and a 5th base on the way. So every single unit is going to matter here, especially at this level of play versus a player of Squirtle's caliber is going to be super, super important. +3 attack is on the way. And it looks like we may be gearing up, I would assume here, Sean, for a macro game, but when is Squirtle looking to push out?
I think he'll push out with 3 Colossus. I think that is the big key time. That should happen around 16, which will generally strike right before the vulnerable time of 17 minutes when those Broodlords end up arriving. We see the extra gateways starting to add on for Squirtle. Those are needed for the reinforcements in the big attack. He might even add on 2 more. It will be a little bit costly for him to do that, but still, it's quite common to make sure you get those added on now, so that way when the attack begins, you can warp in a full 10 units when they start to deplete.
The Hive Tech, as you were mentioning, right around that 14, 13-ish minute mark, and it's going to be nearly completed here. So is Rhett going to be able to defend here long enough? He's not going to be able to kill the turtling Protoss. We have seen Zerg players really learn. I mean, they've known this for a while, but using it a lot recently, that you can't necessarily just break a player that's turtling. Whether it's going to be, well, any race, Zerg, Protoss, or Terran, Zerg players are best in engaging in the center of the map, denying the army, trying to counterattack if possible, but just bleeding your opponent dry. And right now, Squirrels is going to be gearing up for that 3 base timing, potentially 3 Colossus. Overseer just going to be scouting around, seeing exactly what's going on there at the natural. But overall, Rhett is able to secure that 5th base, has enough drones to be able to transfer them down there at 92 right now. The Zergies are going to run in here. They see the Colossus, but that's all they do as they get taken out. But he does need a free up supply anyway. After seeing the Colossus, he says, oh, I need Corruptors. I need more and more upgrades here.
Oh,
so
this is going to be a really tense fight. We see a Warp Prism now coming up as well. Squirtle can either harass or be pulling back to do some sort of reinforcement. Overseer's getting picked off. There's the 3 Colossus timing. And again, 16 minutes right before the 17 minutes when those Broodlords will be coming out. Squirtle hitting at such a vulnerable timing. And it looks like Rhett has too much defense focus on his 4th base. It looks like his main is totally wide open.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where Zerg players just assume the Protoss is going to engage, but the army already has a nice concave from engaging those rocks. Yes, those rocks actually helped him out a great deal in that battle. Look, it splits up your army perfectly, and then you can keep the concave from there, marching up the ramp. He's still quite close.
And he blinks up!
Bungles did not
Where's the
do
bungle?
the Bungles way too late on those. He's got to lose every single infester. And unfortunately, right now for Rhett, he might actually lose these Corruptors, which he needs to save for the Broodlord tech. And he just does not have that much stuff right here. Sean, you were mentioning he needs to attack before 18 minutes, and that's exactly what he's doing here. No Broodlords, no Ultras, nothing to defend. And I think that with this many Stalkers, what can he really do?
Oh, with all those 8 gateways back in the main, Squirtle reinforces 8 Stalkers at a time. You don't even see Colossus production going down. He knows that they did their job. Force the Zerg player to leave all those up. And good game.